Existing in a world of their own, here's our favourite fictitious fiction from the world of film and TV. Have you ever had that moment where you think you've spotted your next read in the show you're watching, only to discover it doesn't exist in the real world? Or found yourself dying to read the novel written by your favourite fictional author? It turns out that so many of the books we see on our screens are themselves works of fiction, either as punchlines, story devices, or neat Easter eggs created to enrich the universe they're set in. So here, we've scoured through our favourite films and TV shows to find the best of the books that we wish we could read. Be your own windkeeper in Friends.
So, did you read the book?
Who else but our favourite Friends would be sending up the sweeping wave of 90s empowerment books? In Season 2, we see Phoebe and Monica recommend Rachel
Be Your Own Windkeeper.
a self-help book with a heady mix of feminism and spirituality.
Yeah, but there's wind.
We see the book have a powerful effect on Rachel, who clearly strongly identifies with the text.
I mean, this book could have been called Be Your Own Windkeeper, Rachel.
Enabling her to attempt to set new boundaries in her relationship with Ross with her newfound strength.
Sweetie, we've got to go.
No!
Of course, it wouldn't be Friends without the book also causing rifts in the girls' friendship.
You are such a leaf blower!
Clearly, Be Your Own Windkeeper is just too powerful for our own reality.
Oh.
Handbook for the Recently Deceased in Beetlejuice. Guidebooks are often created for film props, but none are quite like Beetlejuice's Handbook for the Recently Deceased.
Handbook for the recently diseased.
Deceased.
As far as symbols go, finding a how-to for the afterlife is a pretty big clue for Barbara and Adam Maitland that they might be dead. That, and having no reflection. Famously, the book isn't the most gripping, with Adam claiming,
This book reads like stereo instructions. Listen to this. Geographical and temporal perimeters. Functional perimeters vary from manifestation to manifestation.
which is rather a shame, as it seems it really does contain all they'd need to know.
It's all in the handbook.
You probably haven't even read through the manual completely yet.
Okay, have you been studying the manual?
Well, we tried.
The intermediate interface chapter on haunting says it all. Get them out yourselves.
Bouncing Back by Alan Partridge in I'm Alan Partridge. Aha! North Norfolk's favourite radio presenter Alan Partridge is never shy of sharing his opinions on anything and everything.
How can you set fire to your hands?
So of course the celebrity memoir is the perfect vehicle for him. Bouncing Back sounds like a mix of self-help and memoir, where Alan describes his journey through divorce.
Well, I love families, I used to have one. But it left me.
And being dropped from the BBC after shooting a guest on his talk show, leading to his Toblerone-fueled breakdown, through to his so-called recovery.
I feel I have, had, and are bouncing.
The book is just one more facet in Alan's attempt to rehabilitate himself in the eyes of the public and get back to his glory days. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he's really willing to put the work in.
Train for Lowestoft is on platform 4.
Interestingly, Alan's more recent title, I, Partridge, which was published in real life, features many callbacks and references to Bouncing Back. So who knows, maybe some copies managed to escape the mass pulping after all. Back of the net.
Sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like whirling silently.
Deal Breakers by Liz Lemon in 30 Rock.
Liz?
Oh, boy, well,
30 Rock's Liz Lemon is certainly not one to pass up an opportunity, so it only seems natural that she'd be able to generate a book deal from a single chat show appearance.
Deal breaker.
Deal Breakers appears to be an endless list of reasons women should
Shut it down. Deal breaker.
and leave their awful, disappointing relationships.
Only one snake in the bed. Deal breaker.
Of course, in true Liz style, she quickly finds ways to push her new catchphrase over the top and immediately finds herself on the defensive for some of the advice given in the book.
If your man is over 30 and still wears a name tag to work, that's a deal breaker. But not you, Mike.
While divisive then, it certainly seems like a powerful read.
To your cutout. Oh, wait, you don't have one because you're nobody.
Homer, I Hardly Knew Me by Homer Simpson from The Simpsons. Any list of fake books featured on TV would surely be incomplete without The Simpsons. The true masters of the visual gag, over the years we've seen many, many books in Springfield which sadly we can't read. Who could forget the Big Book of British Smiles? or the 10 do's and 500 don'ts of knife safety.
What Donnie don't does. No, they won't let you have any fun.
Though if we had to pick just one to read from cover to cover, it would surely be Homer's autobiography, Homer, I Hardly Knew Me, found by Bart and Lisa in the attic in Treehouse of Horror 7.
The unsold copies of Dad's autobiography.
The title is a reference to Germaine Greer's 1989 biography of her father, Daddy, We Hardly Knew You, but the joke certainly still works without knowing the original. No quotations from the book make it into the show, but knowing Homer, perhaps that's for the best. The Man Inside Me by Tobias Funke in Arrested Development. Speaking of knowing oneself, Arrested Development's Dr. Tobias Funke seems to have a stunning lack of self-awareness. He's often led into sticky situations through his accidental innuendos, and perhaps the greatest example of this is his brief publishing career.
For the ease of the reader, I have changed all the gender-related pronouns, he, she, to the masculine he.
Previously on Arrested Development, Tobias was a psychoanalyst and wrote The Man Inside Me as a self-help book. But upon publication, he instead finds enthusiastic readership in the gay community.
For there's a man inside me, and only when he's finally out can I walk free of pain.
This book is gonna sell like 1 billion copies.
Lindsay! Oh, I'm so glad you came.
A Match Made in Space by George McFly in Back to the Future. What better way to change your future fortunes than by travelling back in time and accidentally inspiring your teenaged father to write best-selling sci-fi books by pretending to be Darth Vader?
My name is Darth Vader.
1985's classic Back to the Future is full of tidbits and Easter eggs that spill over between its timelines, but it's the film's ending that reveals George McFly's transformation into a best-selling author. It's the cover that gives away the connection, and also tells Marty that his journey wasn't all a dream, harking back to Marty's use of his radiation suit to convince George to take Lorraine, aka Marty's mother, to the dance. Of course, if the date doesn't go ahead, then Marty's entire existence is in question. So drastic times call for drastic measures.
You're all waxed up, ready for tonight.
An Imperial Affliction by Peter Van Houten in The Fault in Our Stars. Have you ever connected so deeply with a book that it feels as though it was written about you? That was the case for Shailene Woodley's Hazel in The Fault in Our Stars. In fact, not only is An Imperial Affliction Hazel's favourite book, mirroring her own experience as a childhood cancer patient, but it also drives the plot of the film.
An Imperial Affliction.
Okay. What's that?
It's a novel. It's my favorite novel.
Wait, does it have zombies in it?
Zombies? No.
Stormtroopers?
You could argue, in fact, that without it, the events of the story could not have occurred. Interestingly, the love for An Imperial Affliction has spread beyond the screen. This fake book is so beloved by fans that it has almost 2,000 reviews on Goodreads, and in fact, The Fault in Our Stars author John Green did release a 6-page excerpt for a charity fund. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get to see more of Hazel's favourite book.
Oh my God. Because they're an amazing antioxidant.
I didn't even know we were having dessert.
Mm-hmm. Gotta celebrate things as family.
The Grand Budapest Hotel in The Grand Budapest Hotel. Noted bibliophile Wes Anderson is infamous for including books in his films, from the multitude of titles written by the Tenenbaum family to the books carried by Susie in Moonrise Kingdom. But you could argue that another film in his body of work is even more indebted to the written word. The Grand Budapest Hotel, the film, is an embedded narrative of The Grand Budapest Hotel, the book. In a cemetery, a young girl visits the shrine of a renowned writer, known simply as Author, carrying a copy of his most cherished novel, The Grand Budapest Hotel. While this book doesn't exist, it's heavily inspired by the works of Austrian author Stefan Zweig, with Anderson once joking that the film is basically plagiarism. As with any narrative retelling, the film ends as it begins, back to the book being read by the young girl in the cemetery. Once again then, could the film exist without this fake book? The Misery series by Paul Sheldon in Misery. The fictional Misery series by Paul Sheldon may well be the most dangerous of the fake books on this list. Based on the Stephen King novel of the same name, Misery is centred around the dark side of obsessive fandom, with Kathy Bates' Annie turning to extreme measures to prevent her favourite fictional series from ending. After rescuing him from a car accident, Annie claims to be Paul's #1 fan and talks at length about him and his novels.
I'll take good care of you. I'm your #1 fan.
However, after she reads the latest novel and discovers that Misery dies at the end of the book, she turns on Paul, revealing that nobody knows where he is and that he's being held captive.
She can't be dead. Misery Chastain cannot be dead.
Annie forces Paul to burn his new manuscript and insists he write a new novel titled Misery's Return, in which he brings the character back to life. It's certainly one way to deal with a disappointing sequel.
Oh, Paul, I'm dying. Does she wind up with Ian or Winthorne?
You'll know very soon.
Throwing a Garden Party by James Trickington in The Office.
Is that how you do it?
Yes.
While we're still awaiting completion of Michael J. Scott's Somehow I Manage,
I've written all of it. In my head.
it makes total sense that the one book that is published by a member of the American office is part of an elaborate prank. Jim and Dwight's eternal feud is still raging on in this Season 8 episode that sees Dwight throwing an elegant garden party for the new boss. Where else would you turn to for advice on such matters than a book?
Only one copy in the world, and some sucker on the internet sold it to me for $2.
Hopefully next time Dwight will pay more attention to the author and avoid works from James Trickington.
I've only sold one copy.
So, that's our list. Are there any we missed? Let us know your favourites in the comments below. Thanks for watching. For more videos like this, subscribe to the Penguin YouTube channel by clicking here. See you next time.